Hey YouTubers, it's Steve again, coming from Rescape, my YouTube channel that seeks to aid and benefit people by helping them be more aware or informed of their fundamental perception of reality, what that is and how that works, and how by changing that oh god, it's cold. I swear she doesn't bother me at all until I turn on the camera. But no, just by being aware and being able to change your fundamental perception of reality, and then how that affects your life and relationships in the world, and just by knowing what's true, just the benefits of that. And then also when large groups of people come together with more in tune versions of their fundamental perception of reality, or more in tune with what's actually there or occurring, then how that allows them to affect the world in phenomenal ways. So today is going to be a continuation of last week, about self-deception, when you lie to yourself or you know what's true and then you decide that it's not true, and then how that affects you further down the road. Well, this week is going to be very briefly just ways that prevent people from even coming to the point where they can, know truths. Because like last week I told us, like, it has to be like almost divine intervention to get through the trash that we're brought up in today's world, and then to have that privilege and then just to throw it away, and like the tragedy of that. But why don't we just know, why don't we know what's true just from the get-go? If truth is simply plain and simple and easy to understand and aware and available for everyone, why does nobody know what the hell's going on? So briefly, first I just want to say that there are ideas that everybody have that we have been basically bred to have that aren't true, and there's a lot of them. But today here's one: that if people were raised without technology, without the educational system, they would be ignorant. When really it's completely opposite. People that don't have technology or the educational system understand very correctly what's going on, and then people that do have an education and are grown up in first world industrialized countries have no idea what's happening. So how would this work? One of the neat things about not knowing what's going on is that if someone does know what's going on, then they have power to then not only control what you think is true, but then also to make it so that you don't have the ability to understand what's true to begin with. So one of the things, it's like this. So in order to have the opportunity to understand what's true, you have to have a little black box in your mind of just, you have to be aware of things that you aren't aware of. You have to be aware of what you're not aware of. Now, if you're not in the present moment and you don't have an expansive spirit, you can't do this, because you have to, even by the act of saying I'm unaware of that, you still just put something in that place. You still have some idea of like, oh, that's just something I don't understand, or that's too complicated, or something like that. So you still, even by admitting that you don't know what it is, you now put it into a box such that you're just going to, like, oh man, I guess I just won't know, and then so there's no growth there. If you are in the present moment and your spirit encompasses a situation and there's things in your environment that you don't know, you'll be in the immediacy of not knowing them, and then you've got this like void that, like, it wants to suck in information. Even as you're doing other things, all these little places where you're not aware, or you're aware that you're not aware, they just sit there like little black boxes ready to be filled. And so there's, like, I'm just going to call that from here on out in my videos, I was calling them the empty cup. So you have to have an empty cup, not just like, spiritually in yourself, I was like, oh, I'm an empty cup, but like, if, let's say for example, one of the biggest lies the news will say, which by the way, the news never comes out and lies directly, because then that could be libel, or whatever, because you can then point it out factually, like, oh, well, that's not true, da, 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 da. The way the news lies is they have implications that are lies, and one of the biggest implied lies that the news always does is that they report on things that are irrelevant, and by reporting on them, they imply that they're relevant. The news stations will garner themselves a reputation of reporting on relevant events, and then when they report on things that aren't relevant at all, they don't say they're relevant or irrelevant, but then people watch them and just assume that somehow people just buy the reputation of news, whatever, TV, newspaper, radio, whatever, and people will think they're relevant, but the news station never said it was relevant. The news station could have said it was irrelevant and been telling the truth, but instead they just left it blank, because they knew that little black box was going to be filled with what they wanted to be filled with, which is that you think it's relevant. So again, not being present, these, you'll fill it with things that may or may not be true. Now, okay, so going way back, so I don't want to make this complicated or go off on a tangent. Basically, if you want to be in a situation where you understand correctly what's going on, you have to be aware of the things that you don't know, and then to maintain those things in the present moment is something that you don't know. And then what happens when you're in that situation, when things occur, even little small things occur that then fill that situation even a little bit, like maybe a little puzzle piece, it'll stick and it'll be implied, and you won't necessarily consciously know that you're like, hey, well, I didn't know that, but that's okay, so that's a little piece of something there. It'll all be in the background, and then you'll start developing a universe that is correct, but over time and just little by little and without effort. Again, it's effortless. Go watch 2 videos ago, and then from there on back 4 videos or whatever. But one of the things, another lie, is that to be educated requires work or study. It's not true. The best education you can have will happen automatically, naturally, without an authoritarian figure giving you, marks of whether or not you're doing well or not, depending on what they want you to do and things like that. It's completely ridiculous. Like, the whole thing's ridiculous, except you wouldn't know because there's nobody who hasn't been through that. No one. It's by law you have to go through the educational system, so there's no way for anyone. Let's say the educational system is bullshit. How would you know? Because everybody has to do it, right? But it's not that the educational system teaches things that are false. It teaches things that are irrelevant, and then the implication of it is that they are relevant, which they're not. And then what it is, you've got the little black boxes of things that you don't know, but they're not there anymore because they imply in what they teach is that that's all there is. And so you don't have that presence in the present moment of being aware of what you're not aware of, because you're taught that you have a full and complete picture, and if anything's missing, well, you can just go to Wikipedia or something like that and fill it in, which is completely not true at all. And I don't even know where I'm going with this. I hate to bash, if you're a teacher out there or something like that, I'm sure you're doing a good job. Like, don't think this is like going against people. Like, same thing, like, if you're a soldier in the army and you really believe what you're fighting for, like, that's not a bad thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with teaching other people's children and things like that. It's literally that you have yourself. There are systems that are set up to prevent people from understanding reality, and then that's what this channel is that's what I've made this channel for. So I'm kind of getting a little antsy around those things because they kind of go against with what I'm trying to do. But that's just my bias. Anyway, so basically what you have to understand is that you need to find the places where there have been implications in your mind from third parties saying that things are relevant or things are true, and not that they're not true, but that they're specifically, if you're putting your attention on those things, there's things you're not putting your attention on, you don't know about, and you don't know what those things are unless you take your mind off the things that is calling out for your attention, and then in the present moment being like, okay, what do I really know? And then what you'll do that just for like a day, and then you'll find out you don't know anything. And then acknowledging that, if you can stomach that and not get sick or pass out, then it's like, okay, I'm going to maintain this, and I'm going to live the rest of my life knowing that I don't know hardly anything, and not in that trite little like quote ways like, oh, the wise person knows that they don't know anything, which everyone likes to say, but nobody really believes it. Like, if you really get to that point, like, your world will turn upside down, and you may go crazy for a little bit because it's like looking into the void, like how little, and then it's easy then to turn back and cling to this, like, all the things we've been taught, being like, well, I know these things are real because I've had them my whole life and everybody knows them, and da 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 da. But if you really want to pursue a correct fundamental perception of reality, you got to let go of that stuff. You don't disregard it because it's not true, but you just have to set it to the side, see it for what it is, and then find out what else is available, and just go from there. And it's not something, it doesn't require effort or hard work or study. It's literally you live your life with the assumption of these little black boxes, these empty cups that you didn't know were there before, and you watch them fill themselves, and then you find out what's happening that you wouldn't already know about. So I think that's enough. This is Steven, channel's Rescape. If you have any questions, post in the comments. This one was kind of weird. I'll have to go back and watch it. But you have to, it's not that what you know is incorrect. It's literally that what you are placing your mind on is make you unaware of the other 99% of reality, and then we're taught to believe that the 1% we're focusing on is all there is. So it's not true. It doesn't take effort to find out the truth. You just got to unplug yourself. So that's all I'm going to say for this video. But anyway, Steve Robertson, Rescape. Post in the comments. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.